Hello, this is Martin.
This is Lauren. We are 2/3 of the band CHVRCHES, and you are listening to the CHVRCHES Podcast.
Number 9 for October 28th, 2016.
Then I never would have given you up. Never would have given you up. If you only hadn't given me up. Only hadn't given me up. No more clarity, only confusion. Every focused thought, just an illusion. If I could see you now, if you would listen.
Today's CHVRCHES Fan Podcast number 9 is being recorded and set for release on Friday, the 28th of October, 2016. This is CHVRCHES fan Steve Holden recording in Southern California near San Diego. You can send me feedback, input, comments, suggestions, etc. on this fan-inspired podcast on Twitter at CHVRCHES Podcast. That's all one word. I'm so glad you're able to join us today. Today's podcast started off with same intro that we did in podcast number 8, where we were able to record live an intro with Lauren and Martin at the Hollywood Forever show in LA a couple of weeks ago, and I still get a big thrill hearing it, so I decided to just use it again today. Hopefully soon I can get an intro with Ian on it, and if you have any suggestions on how to do that, please just shoot me a message on Twitter. That intro song segment was High Enough to Carry You Over from the CHVRCHES' second album, Every Open Eye. Today's podcast consists of the latest news and concert updates, our second fan interview that I recorded in my backyard, and an interview that the band did for the show The Current. Also, everything mentioned in this podcast that has a link will be in the show notes at chvrchespodcast.com. You can also subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Google Play Music, and SoundCloud. Links are on the podcast website. You can also listen to all the podcasts via any browser at chvrchespodcast.com. So, some news and show updates. Item number 1, I learned via a recent Google News alert that CHVRCHES has a growing IMDb record of some of the TV shows, games, concert albums, and other items that they have participated in. The link to this site will be in the show notes if you wanted to check that out. The second and final item I wanted to mention is that in the last podcast, CHVRCHES singer Lauren Mayberry has been added as a special guest at Greg Barris's Laughter in Darkness variety show that will be at Baby's All Right in New York City on November 3rd. Guests will be Dave Hill, Seth Herzog, Seton Smith, and CHVRCHES Lauren Mayberry. And a link to that will be, of course, in the show notes. So since the last podcast, CHVRCHES were down to 4 final shows as part of their Every Open Eye tour. They finished up with 2 shows in New York City and then 2 shows in Washington, D.C. Both shows had pretty big social media coverage and great posts, pictures, and videos. One thing that was awesome about the New York City show at Radio City Music Hall is that the sound system there is pretty amazing, and even videos that look terrible sounded absolutely great. In addition to some of the great audio, one of the other things I noticed was that there was a good number of posts from people who knew about the CHVRCHES, maybe had listened to a few of their songs, saw that they were going to be in town, decided to buy tickets and show up at the show, not really knowing how good they are in concert. And these people were really impressed by the energy of the band, the light show, and the passion of the other fans feeding off of each other and how the band interacted with the fans. So kudos to the fans that were able to make it to the shows, and thank you again to CHVRCHES for a wonderful tour for their second album, Every Open Eye.
Looking ahead, there's a chance wherever it all ends. Head up and stay strong. Holding your head up, keep holding on.
That short segment sampler was Under the Tide, Church's first album, The Bones of What You Believe. And I just realized that in today's podcast, I'm playing 2 songs that Martin has been performing lately on tour. This is pretty weird because I have a new secret formula for picking what songs to play, and it really just seems like a fluke that this has happened. Of course, then it could also be fate. So either way, 2 great songs, and thank you, Martin, for doing what you do so well in those 2 songs, especially when you're performing them live. The fan interview for today's podcast is with CHVRCHES fan Lee Sanders, and I'll have a link to his Twitter handle in the show notes if you want to reach out to him after the podcast. Lee was able to sit down with me in San Diego. He was in town, and I invited him over, and we sat in my backyard and recorded this interview. Lee's in the process of touring the United States, seeing football games, churches, concerts, meeting with friends, and doing touristy things. I think you're really going to enjoy this fan interview. First question is, how did you become a CHVRCHES fan?
Who are churches?
The CHVRCHES.
The churches.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know when it was, what year it was. It's probably 2013, actually. I have to kind of Google it if that was the case. But they were about to play the Cambridge Junction in the United Kingdom, and they were playing there, and one of my friends was going. One of my best friends called Chris. He was coming back because he lives down in Norwich, which is probably about an hour away, and he said, "Oh, I'm coming back, but I'm going to a gig, and if you want to come along, it'd be cool to hang out, have a few beers." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go along." And yeah, so I went along, and it was kind of weird. It was this weird thing of I didn't know, I'd never heard of them before. And so I went to this gig, and mainly it was I was just having beers with one of my best mates. It was good to have him back in the town. And so they came on stage, they performed for the Bones tour, and I was like, actually, I really do like this. I like the 80s kind of vibe to it and everything like that from someone that kind of listened to a lot of older music with my dad. When he was younger, he listened to a lot of kind of Top of the Pops 2, which you probably are like, "Oh, what's Top of the Pops 2?" But people in the UK will understand. And it's kind of they kind of do a flashback. It's God, it's quite hard to describe. It's like they go back in time and look at when David Bowie or Prince or the Beatles were on the weekly music show that announced the top of the charts. And so they would go back and go, "Oh, in this year, this person was number 1, the Beatles or whatever." And I grew up on a lot of that stuff and listening to that sort of stuff. So it kind of already kind of had its claws into me when I heard the songs. And at that point, I was at the back of the gig, having a few beers, not near the front, not what I've become. We went. I went down to his the next day, and I was hooked. We were playing a game called Bonanza, little card game, me and him, and his now wife and his brother, and we were just sitting there, and I remember it on the background. We had YouTube just playing over and over again, Gun, Recover, Mother, just playing Lies, just playing those songs, and it was just repeating. And because the album was kind of not really on YouTube then, it was just the music videos. So the music video playlist was just playing over and over again. And I just was fascinated with Gun. I just loved the music video. I loved the riff and everything like that. And from then on, it went from Chris introducing me to the band to me becoming more of a fan than Chris, which was quite scary. It happened really, really quickly. And then from there, it got to the fact where I would follow them on Twitter. I wouldn't really interact with them. And I was kind of more of a backseat fan. So the next show that I went to, Brixton, I bought Chris and Emma were about to get married, and I bought them tickets as a sort of wedding present, early wedding present. and and I took them to the show. I was at the back then, and from there it then kind of I started talking to more people online, and from there it just went on. I don't know if I answered your question there.
Yeah, no,
I probably did well enough. So
that's cool. So how many times have you seen them live?
How many times have I seen them live? Seen them at the Junction, Cambridge Junction, London Brixton. I saw them. I'm trying to think what came first. So that was the only Bones shows I saw. Right. I saw them twice for Bones, and I saw them on the album opening Tufnell Dome. I saw them.
This is every open eye then.
Yeah, every open eye this was, yeah. And then Ali Pally, Royal Albert Hall. Mine's going blank. Glasgow. I like to say Hydro. And then I came over here. So I then saw them in Providence. I saw them in Milwaukee and Los Angeles. So I've seen them all 9 times. Nearly made 10. 9 times. So I'm not the crazy fan like Jay. You know, that guy. That nerd. Yeah. I'm working my way, and I'm going to aim to try and topple Lauren's dad. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
I don't know. Oh. Apparently, when she was talking, I think it was Ali Pally, she was saying that he was the number 1 fan. Mm. And he had seen it. I think back then it was like something like 28 times, right. And that was early part of Every Open Eye. So Every Open Eye came out September. They performed in Ali Pally in November. So she said that then. I don't know what his total is now, but I know that he goes to see her quite a lot. I don't mind. I like to see them as much as I can.
Is there one show that stands out as like a favorite show, and why?
Oh, favourite show. See, my favourite show, it's hard to call it, because I've got a favourite show for several reasons. So I've got favourite shows, like these ones that I've just been to, Providence, Milwaukee, and LA, because I've met so many people online that as I've said to, Lauren, Martin and Ian so many times, I thank them a lot, because I've created so many friends through this group, and to actually go to shows with them. So Providence, Milwaukee and LA, I've met, kind of the American side of the group, met so many lovely people and hung out with them, and it's been fun to have a good bounce around with them at the front of the stage. But then, going back to like things like the first show of seeing them, kind of getting that, oh my God, what is this? This is just beautiful to hear, that start of Never Ending Circles. Oh God, I would marry that if I had the chance. Such a good, and Gun, oh God, I can go on and on, kind of talk about like how much I love like certain bits, but then I can go back to like Ali Pally, where I met some of the guys from the UK side, and I stood outside there, and when I walked up, it was just me that was at the Ali Pally show until Chris came along to the meet and greet with me earlier on, and kind of meeting those. I walked up and they were just friendly. I remember like Josh and Lenny and Beth, they just come up to me, they're absolutely fine, just chatty, really, really welcoming, and I was just like, oh my God, what have I let myself in for? And next thing I know, I'm at the front, I'm at the rail. That's another special one for me, because I met them for the first time as well, and it was kind of one of those weird moments where you meet them and they say about don't meet your idols and stuff like that, and people you look up to, but I was like, oh, no, that went out the window there. They're the coolest people. But I'm going to have to say my favourite gig, this is going like kind of like, I'm waffling on a little bit here, but my favourite gig was Royal Albert Hall, mainly because from that venue, a lot of people don't know about that venue, but it's just royalty and its sense of like how many people have performed there. And for Churches to play there, when that was announced that they're playing the Royal Albert Hall, it's a bit like at the moment they're doing Radio City in New York. When they announced that they were doing Royal Albert Hall, it was like, wow, this is really cool. And it's such a small venue, but such an iconic venue. And they absolutely smashed it that night, personally. And I really had a good time. And it was one of those perfect places to see them, really.
Right.
I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go next, where they perform. So there's quite some historic places out there
That are still untapped.
Yeah. So it'd be quite cool to actually see where they go. But I have so many fond memories, and you can clearly see from what I'm saying, you know. But yeah, they've all got individual kind of qualities to them. But
Right.
yeah, that one was a real special one.
So you touched on this a little bit, but the third question is, what's your favorite song and why?
There's too much to choose from. There's too many good ones. I love Teva because I love the whole kind of. Not only do I love the fact that Ian gets to kind of let off with the guitar and stuff like that, but I love that it feels like a massive collision or a car crash of all these different like kind of lyrics and kind of beats and everything like that all coming together at once. I love that kind of whole where it all builds up right at the end. Mother is another special one because you get it's a proper anthem, really. Here is Lies. I did love Lies. I'm so happy they brought that back. Please don't get rid of it again. Please. I try not to beg at them. I've begged too many times to them. I've begged about like them coming to like back to Cambridge and Norwich and stuff like that. I'm like, please come back and play closer to me. London's okay. London's like only an hour away, but it's just a pain in the arse to get around during the evening and stuff. So yeah, so go back to the songs. My favourite songs is Gun and Never Ending Circles. Like I said, just the melodies to those are just as I said, marry them. I would marry them. Love those songs. Listen to them over and over again. And I'm one of these people that I get the lyrics wrong all the time. Yeah. So if you're next to me at a gig and you hear me singing the wrong lyrics, it just happens. Yeah, I still don't know the lyrics to these songs. I love them. But I'm more the person that kind of I can sing along to the tune rather than the lyrics. Right. And so I get lyrics wrong all the time. Release and Relief in Leave a Trace I still get wrong to this day, and I will still get wrong until I'm like 90 years old. So
I know the feeling. So is there something the band has done that's really impressed you?
I think the way that they've kept it to themselves, they've kept doing it their own way rather than kind of getting swept up by, say, a record company coming in and kind of telling them what to do and when to do it and stuff. I like how they got their own power behind it all. They can release stuff and do stuff when they want. I like that they're in charge of their social media aspects. I was talking about earlier on about someone paying someone to run it, and you think you've just talked to like someone that you kind of look up to. Later on you find out that it's not that person. So it's quite nice to actually know that when someone sees something or someone likes your post or likes a photo or I imagine there's kind of kids out there that are posting pictures or they're drawing stuff and they're sending it to them and they're actually getting replies from them. That's what I like about it.
Right.
Yeah, they're very, very hands-on. Very impressed about that.
Right. Oh, I found that just because they answered my question about what 80s song to play at the end. Well, it's like out of nowhere. I mean, they don't know what we were doing or what I was doing.
No.
I don't know.
That was really, really cool as well. Because it was just retweeted it, going, Ian, answer this, and and then Laura. It's really cool. Really cool that they can just go, yep, okay.
So is there a particular piece of memorabilia that you're proud of?
Well, I've just got my 2 set lists. Well, I say 2 set lists. I feel bad now because now some people don't even have one. Went to the 3-year show of Bones, which I didn't realise until afterwards, at Providence. Managed to get a set list there, and I managed to get a set list from Milwaukee. Luckily for me, I got both of those signed. So the plan is to put them, kind of frame them and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of, the stuff which is, there's some personal stuff that Lauren's wrote from Fan Club that she's wrote to me that has helped me out in the past through, kind of tough times. I kind of confided in her. She doesn't know me from, she knows that I'm Leet Sanders on Twitter, and she knows that, kind of I live in the UK and I'm a Churches fan, and, I'm probably a little bit crazy. But, she still kind of spent time out of her day to read that letter that I sent to her from Glasgow, and she responded to me, and that was, it was a tough time for me, and I think everyone has these tough times. People who listen to it will understand that they've probably confided into a band and kind of said, oh, thanks for, this lyric, even though, Lauren probably wrote that lyric in one way, it's probably meant something quite important to them. So it's quite nice to actually kind of get something back from the band to say, yeah, and then, kind of, that was quite nice. So, and I'm quite a hoarder in my things, I've got loads of stuff. I keep all my tickets, I keep all my stuff like that. So, yeah, so it's quite, that'd be something that I hold on for a long time. And it might not mean much to Lauren. She could just have been saying something in, kind of in just kind of being just a friend. Oh yeah, don't worry about it, like that sort of thing. But to me, that meant something at that time. It really did. So anything signed is always good, though, isn't it? Absolutely. It is really cool when you get something like that. I'm sure everyone's got that sort of thing. Ian wrote, instead of writing Lee, he wrote Lee, but carried on writing the E's. Mm-hmm. So now it looks like Lee. Mm-hmm. So that was quite funny, but I didn't realise until afterwards. But yeah, it's quite nice when you get stuff like that. Yeah, and it's much appreciated. So thank you.
If you could ask the churches one question, what would it be?
What would Ian do? Actually, one question, is when will Ian start his gaming Twitch channel? Because that would be awesome to watch, and I would subscribe to that. So, Ian, if you're listening, get on it. And Martin as well. I would actually watch Martin play FIFA. Seeing some of his tweets as well about him moaning about his FIFA plan. Oh my god, to be on a fly on the wall, that must be really comical. Brilliant.
A big thank you goes out from me to Lee for letting me bleed him of all his Churches fans' thoughts, ideas, and opinions. It was great to be able to meet him in person and spend time with him and other fans at Hollywood Forever. Thanks also for letting me be your +1 at Churches Fan Club meet and greet in LA earlier this month. Today's band interview is a patched together interview Churches did with the show The Current from Minnesota Public Radio. This was posted on October 12th, 2015, and it was recorded pretty early in the beginnings of the tour for the album Every Open Eye. There are some great questions in this interview, so let's get right to it.
I am Mac Wilson. I am joined in the studios of 89.3 The Current by Churches. Welcome back.
Hi, Mac.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Churches performing at Myth in Maplewood later tonight, and we are beyond enthused to have you stop by and play some songs for us, including this one from the new record, Every Open Eye. You're going to open up today with Leave a Trace.
Mm-hmm.
It is Churches in the studio of 89.3 The Current. We are in the Current studios with CHVRCHES. Martin, Ian, and Lauren, welcome back to the Twin Cities. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having us back.
So
We have done a lot in a day already.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a good day. You were at the Electric Fetus earlier today.
We were. We were lucky. A lot of people turned up, but now our brains are a bit blue. So there's a lot of people to talk to and say hi to. But we've always had a good time when we come here. So
Did you get the chance to go record shopping at all?
no.
Oh.
They were like, stay behind that table and sign all that stuff. Don't leave. So, yeah. But it was good. We met a lot of really nice people.
So if you had an extra couple of minutes and you had the chance to go record shopping, what's something that you have been itching to pick up lately, for instance, or even what would you be looking for if you had just some spare time to go record shopping today?
It's technically not a record, but I really want to find the Grace Jones book because she's awesome. And I can't find it. I can't find it anywhere. So, yeah.
The problem with touring is that by the time that you actually, pack all your clothes and everything, there's no room for buying anything else unless you carry an extra suitcase. So vinyl shopping tends to be quite low on the list of priorities on tour for me.
I think a book would be really good. There's lots of really great rock biographies lately, and the Grace Jones one.
Carrie Bernstein is coming.
Yeah,
It's start of November, I think, that one comes out. I'm very excited about that.
CHVRCHES playing at Myth in Maplewood later tonight, and I want to give a big hearty congratulations on the success and the new record, Every Open Eye, which is out now. When you were setting out to record this new record, your second album, did you have any examples like from history of, okay, this was a really great second album that a band put together, like a sort of a template for that?
I don't think we were drawing from any one kind of particular example, because second records are very difficult, I find, when you go back through, and we were well aware of that. It's the classic thing of the band that's new and exciting, and you bring people to the shows and people buy your first record because you are new and maybe it is exciting, but do those people stay with you on the second record? And we spent some time thinking about that, but luckily, we managed to lock those thoughts out of the studio. We had a great time making this record, to be honest. We toured Bones for almost 2 years. And by the time we got back to Glasgow, we were like properly ready to be in the studio, to flip back to the mode that we were in before anyone even knew or cared about this band. And yeah, we had such a good time.
So one of the strategies that you employed when you were recording the second album was, like you say, Martin, to largely keep to the strategies that you've worked before. Did you feel like that added a layer of pressure, or was that more liberating, actually, to stick to, recording by yourself, for instance, without outside help? How did that work?
We were focused on that from minute one with this project. We were always of the mind that we would make all of our output ourselves, whilst we've still felt inspired as writers, as producers, but as a team first and foremost. And by the time we came to make album 2, we were very much still in that mindset, and we are now. And this record, it feels like a distillation of album 1. It feels like a progression. It feels like more of a natural development as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel, which is definitely what we're trying to avoid. And ultimately, that's kind of like that arc from record 1, from album 1, right through to now has been continuous and steady and has progressed in a really nice way for us. It's great.
One of the clear standouts to anybody who listens to the record is the opening seconds of the album, Never Ending Circles. It feels like you wanted to open the record with the biggest possible bang. And with it at the beginning of the album and using it to open up a lot of your live shows now, when did it really become apparent, like, okay, this is the one to be, side 1, track 1, and the set opener?
So that was actually the very first thing that we did. Day one in the studio was that riff was down, the start.
Like literally the very first that riff,
the very
that drum beat.
Thing. So yeah, it kind of seemed fitting when it came to sort of sequencing the album tracks that was going to be the one. Plus, like you say, it opens with a big sort of bang. So, and it also kind of references in some ways sonically and lyrically elements of the first album. So we felt like it was a good kind of stepping stone or a bridge to where we take it thereafter on the album.
I'm going to ask a little bit more about the album's, the sequencing and the flow of the album later on, but the next track that you're going to play is the closing track to the record, Afterglow, and it's, why don't we just get into Afterglow and then we'll talk a little bit more after it.
Okay.
It is CHVRCHES in the studios of 89.3 The Current.
Sorry, the mystery's gone now. There we are. Ooh, it's like it never happened. It's live music. All of the black and white, all of the contours are laid out before me now to leave a trace. Giving up all I can. I've given up all I can. Given up all I can. I've given up all I can.
That is Afterglow from Churches in the studio of 89.3 The Current. That is the closing track on the new record, Every Open Eye. And the first time that I listened to the record, I was waiting for the, like on Clearest Blue, for instance, there's the drop that comes in halfway through the song, and I was waiting for it the whole time, and then it fades out like that. And it's a really beautiful effect coming at the end of the record. Almost sounds like a ballad that you would have heard on the radio from the early 90s, and it's really beautiful track.
That's where we were aiming that stuff, the classic songwriting, maybe a bit more to the kind of emotional core than you might find these days in pop music. And it's funny that you should mention that was that you felt like there was some sort of drop or kick in coming, because my God, did we wrestle with this song for quite some time, and we fell out, and 2 months of back and forth. It was almost in the bin at one point, and then eventually stripped everything out and just let the song breathe a little bit. And I'm really proud of that. I think it's the most restraint we've ever shown on a recording in that song.
It is definitely the most restraint that I feel that is on the rest of the record, because the intensity that you maintain over the rest of the album, it's really something to behold, and it's really cool. Just when Pitchfork did their review of the record, they drew a correlation between the sequencing of the new record and the Jimmy Eat World album, Bleed American, where there's 5 bangers at the beginning, then a little bit of a breath in the middle, then 4 more bangers, and then the softer, quieter conclusion to the record. And I feel it's really effective because it's almost like a live show when you sit down and listen to the album.
That's very flattering, isn't it? It's like it's one of my favorite records, that Jimmy Eat World album, Bleed American.
I think we didn't really. I guess I heard about that comparison, and I was like, oh, I did not think about that. But Jimmy Eat World is etched on my teenage soul, so maybe subconsciously, I wanted to be Jimmy. I don't know.
Our assistant program director did a show on emo last night, and you've spoken on occasion about the emo roots in Churches. Can you go into detail a little bit about what emo means for Churches?
Well, I always kind of find, I guess when I was a teenager, I didn't know that emo was a dirty word. I lived in a rural area. I can't speak. And it was just, music I found about from reading in magazines and like certain late night TV shows. And I guess for me, it just means music with emotional content. And I don't think there's a problem with that in any way, because that's what I look for in the music that I listen to. And I guess a lot of the bands that were around that time put a lot of themselves into their writing, and bands like Jimmy Eat World and stuff were very active with the fan community around their band. And I think that kind of direct hand-to-hand stuff and things like the bands that were on Saddle Creek and stuff have definitely influenced the way I personally want to treat our fan base. So yeah, I don't think it's bad. I'm happy. I've got like my emo t-shirt on all the time in my heart.
The cover art for the new record, it's reminiscent of New Order's record, Power, Corruption, and Lies, which was taken from a 19th century painting. But right now, your album art is literally coming to life in London right now. It's alive, like literal flowers as the art. I thought that it was nice. I saw the video of that on your Facebook.
It was very cool. Unfortunately, I went up close and touched those flowers. They were fake flowers.
Oh, no.
I know. I was like, this is so amazing, but it'll be dead in a day. This is a terrible marketing idea. And then I went and touched them. I'm like, they're fake. But yeah, it was really beautiful. And we're really pleased with the art and the live show. And I guess the visual element of the band has always been very important to us. And we want it all to feel like it's reflecting the same kind of creativity. So.
I'm supposed to pass along my best wishes from Alex of Franz Ferdinand. He was in yesterday.
Cool, nice one.
He's a lovely man.
And he has this really sad fact, but him and Ian have the same travel suitcase. Because I met him.
That's the most boring rock and roll fact.
Because Ian talks about luggage all the time, and I don't have it in my soul to care about luggage. To be honest, I have a bag. That's the bag I travel with. What are you going to do?
Well, when you live out of a suitcase, it's effectively like your home,
but
really.
I spend a lot of time waiting for people to finish smoking cigarettes, go on coffee runs, and talk about luggage, and I don't do any of those things, so I can't. And then when I met him in an airport lounge, and I was like, "Oh, how are you, Alex? What's going on?" And I was like, "Oh, I see your bag there." And I told Ian, and he was like, "Yeah, see, he knows."
Well, the key to luggage is making sure that it stands out when it comes down the carousel. So I think ours is like bright purple. And of course, there's a couple of people that have that, but still, there's only so many bright purple suitcases. So yeah, we definitely know when that comes down. So Alex says hello. He was in town with the FFS project last night, Franz Ferdinand and Sparks. Sort of similar to how Franz Ferdinand went about it with Sparks. If you were to embark on an album-length recording project with another band, who's on your wish list? Not just your wish list, but who do you really feel like you could get along with and put together a solid record?
I feel like Churches and Brian Eno would be a great pairing.
You dream big there, do you?
Yeah.
Well, you know, maybe.
It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy concept, though, right?
We got to get the word out to Brian on that one,
Brian.
for sure.
You know you want to.
I'd love to be in the studio with Elizabeth Fraser from the Cocktail Twins also. I think that would be really, really special.
There would be a mic fight between those two.
I know that now I'm out of a
Yeah,
job.
but you know.
I'm going to go Tegan and Sarah because, they can play many different instruments, so I wouldn't be put out of a job. And also they seem like lovely ladies and a lot of cat Instagramming, so presumably they bring the cats. And yeah, I'm
You
down.
didn't get any work done.
Robert
Playing
Smith
with cats
as
all
well.
day.
Oh yeah, this
Robert
is quite
Smith.
the supergroup, I feel.
Well, any or all of these projects would be amazing.
Text back, Rob, text back.
Getting really excited about it. Hopefully word gets to any or all of these artists. We're in the current studios with the band Churches. I want to give a thanks to the Charles H. Clay Charitable Trust for its support of the Currents in Studio sessions. Thanks to engineer Michael DeMarc and producer Derek Stevens. And we're going to go back to the first record now with the way it all started with The Bones of What You Believe. You're going to play The Mother We Share.
Never took your side, never cursed your name. I keep my lips shut tight until you go. We've come as far as you can make it easy on me. And the mother reason will never keep our cold heart from calling.
Churches in the studio of 89.3, the current performing The Mother We Share. Ian, Lauren, Martin, thank you again for stopping by today ahead of your show.
Anytime, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, that interview was from The Current. I really like the questions and answers with regards to making the second album and the discussion about books and luggage. I highly recommend going to the link in the show notes to The Current's music files from the interview. They've broken out all the songs into individual tracks, and those songs would be Leave a Trace, Afterglow, and The Mother We Share. Since Churches use their small studio setup that I'm very partial to, the sound of the recordings is really good, especially if you listen to it with headphones on. So we have reached the end of the content for today's podcast. Thank you all for the very kind feedback I got for Isabel's first Churches Fan Podcast interview. That was in podcast number 8. I really enjoyed recording and editing that interview, and I'm glad folks found it enjoyable. You can contact the podcast with comments, feedback, suggestions, and links to content on Twitter at Churches Podcast, or you can send us email at churchespodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget that everything mentioned in this podcast that has a link will be in the show notes at churchespodcast.com, and the website also has links to subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Google Play Music, and SoundCloud. We're going to end the podcast with the song Let's Dance by David Bowie. This song was chosen by Lee Sanders after a hotly contested Twitter poll on which song he should choose. This song is a CHVRCHES fan tribute to all the wonderful songs Mr. Bowie left behind for us. It is also one of Lee's dad's favorite tracks. The song Let's Dance was the third song on the side one of the album Let's Dance that was released in April 1983. It was at the time David Bowie's 15th album. The single Let's Dance was released on March 17th, 1983. It became number 1 in the US and UK plus 8 other countries. It was also certified gold with millions of copies sold in the UK and also in the US. It also recharted to number 5 in the Billboard US Rock Digital Songs in 2016 after David Bowie's death in January of 2016. Thank you so much for sharing your passion for CHVRCHES with me and your support and attention for this fan podcast. This has been Steve Holden for CHVRCHES Fan Podcast. Have a great day. The CHVRCHES Fan Podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 International License by Steve Holden and AztecMedia.net. All rights reserved 2016. Fair use notice. Reference material and media have been placed within this medium for informational, educational, and discussion purposes only, in compliance with the fair use criteria established in Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. It should also be noted that the opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts, and are not endorsed by the host's previous, current, or future employers or advertisers, or any entity officially associated with the CHVRCHES.